Peace. Welcome to the Conscious Observer Podcast. I'm your brother and host, Aleem, and we're just going to get into a couple of different subjects, just lightly talking about them. Um, there's quite a bit going on in the world, as we know, but we'll talk about a few of those things, and because of spiritual energy, a lot of those things will bleed into the other things that we talk about. So I'll be able to save y'all a bit of time by saying something about one which will carry over into the other. I don't have anything written down, but I just saw Nicki Minaj be brought on stage by Donald Trump. I know a lot of people are going to have a lot to say about that. The only thing that I have to say is black men, don't fault the woman for being weak. The women intrinsically have a harder time holding the same things that we can hold. And it's not, as I'm beginning to understand, it's not masculine for us to hold women to the same regard as we hold ourselves. That's like dapping up a lesbian. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of brothers do that. But it's not good to validate a woman by the same standards that you validate yourself by. There has to be a distinction. I think the problem that I was always having with women is trying to approach women from an intellectual angle when that's not her. That's women are extremely intelligent, but that's not exactly her forte. You know, the woman's forte is more emotional based and fear based and things like that. What Nicki Minaj is doing is fear based. It's emotional based. And I wouldn't judge her for doing what she's doing. Because, you know, I'm not going to judge Tiana Taylor for being in a movie where essentially she was made to look as a animal in the eyes of white men and embarrass herself. And, essentially present black women in a negative light and then be awarded for it. And the reason why I can't do that and put focus on them in that type of way is because if we're being completely honest, this is not shocking at all. None of this is shocking. This is what we have been living in since we've been brought to America. We have been living as the captives of white supremacy. We have been brought to a level of intellectual inferiority. We've been destroyed mentally. We refer to ourselves as niggers. I know I put the ER on it because no matter how you want to slice your pie and no matter how you want to call a spade a club, a spade is a spade. A lot of people there's a lot of intellectual deception that people practice where you try to trick yourself. We all do it. Where you use your intelligence to try to trick yourself out of thinking what you know is right. Yes.
What are you doing?
I'm just on the phone. I'm just on the phone making a video. Okay. It's a lot of intellectual deception that goes on. And Nicki Minaj is involved in that, where she is praying to God that she has the strength to make it out on the other side of betraying herself like this, because we all betray ourselves. Don't let's not make no mistakes. We all betray ourselves and embarrass ourselves and do things that make us look extremely bad. And I saw her and I watched her on stage with Donald Trump, and I saw on her face, the internal monologue was louder than what she was saying on the microphone. You could clearly see she was visibly uncomfortable. She was judging herself as she was speaking, because she knew that she was speaking from a disingenuous place. She was speaking from a performance based place, and just praying to God, I'm sure the whole time, that this won't become her legacy, and that she'll be able to live long enough to undo this in real time. Sometimes you could be doing something wrong in real time and be hoping and praying the real time that it won't come back to haunt you. But what I'm saying is that none of this should be surprising. I've always loved Nicki Minaj as a sister. I had a problem with her representation when I was younger, but as I'm getting older and I'm understanding women a little bit better, sexual exploitation and sexual promiscuity and promotion of sex is a thing that's natural to women. Women don't need help from low down men to sexually exploit themselves. That was something that was kind of like a. Now, obviously, I would say that men began it, but I think that we all know that women don't need help to exploit themselves. They can do it on their own. Women don't need managers and pimps. They can do it by themselves, because pimping is something that has migrated to the internet anyway. They don't need our help to take their clothes off. They will take their clothes off. And and the more that I grow up, I'm understood that it's really silly for us as men to even approach women with a struggle that it's hard to approach them. As a man, as I'm beginning to understand, you really only have to be yourself. And you should never put the expectation of sex on a woman, because as I'm coming to understand, a woman will go to sex before you do. She'll go to sex. She'll initiate the sexual advances, the sexual questions. She'll do that before you do. So we should never. It's really a race to see who does it first. It's like almost like think of an analogy. I can't think of it. But you know how they say in business, the first person who talks after an offer is presented loses? It's kind of like that. The first person who brings up sex after, conversation has begun actually loses. So, and I'm beginning to understand that there's a lot of men who already understand this. I'm not saying anything monumental or pivotal or in that regard, but sometimes brothers have to hear things from a different type of brother in order to get it. And hopefully, I had that effect on someone out there. But getting back to it, it was Nicki Minaj. She did that, but no one should be surprised by this, because when a woman has made her career talking about her vagina and has made her career talking about money and very trivial, meaningless things, her integrity was never something that should ever have been held against her in the first place. You don't You integrity at that point is something that has to be created. She would have to be, some man would have to incentivize her spiritually to begin a process of creating integrity, because at this current moment she doesn't have it, and has probably not had it for the last 20 years. So it's no good for us to hold these heavy expectations and, oh my God, I can't believe. If you listen to Nicki Minaj's music, if you listen to most rappers' music, that's the thing that is, coming to the surface more and more, and coming to people's minds more and more, is just how many shades of white supremacy has. White supremacy has a lot of black shades. There's white supremacy comes in all colors, and our self-hatred shows up in a lot of different ways, where you could say, oh, he's a gangster, he's from the streets, he would never betray his race. No, he's a gangster, he's from the streets, he already betrayed his race. He's a gangster, he's from the streets, he killed somebody that was black, he already betrayed his race. So we keep holding the nigga archetype to this high standard of, to be a nigga is to be a strong person with integrity. That's actually not what a nigga is at all. But a lot of brothers who use that word, I'm sorry, I gotta pray. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, all praises are due to you, dear mighty God, Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment that we currently do live in. Thee alone do we serve, and Thee alone do we beseech your help. I bear witness that there is no God but Thee, dear mighty God, Allah, that you came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever, that you guide us upon the right path of those whom you have bestowed favor, not the path of those whom your wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray. Amen.
Ma'am, do you hear me praying in here?
I didn't know you were playing.
I'm sure you heard words. You didn't hear me praying?
No, I didn't hear you play. I'm sorry.
The baby is sleeping.
Daddy?
Yes.
Stop.
That's okay. Let Dad have his time. Dad, when Dad comes out, you can talk to him.
No, I'm so
I know that you have to practice patience. Okay. And hey, let your parent have one of the pieces.
Okay. Pardon me for taking a moment to do that. Pardon me. But I couldn't stop the video and then come back to the video because I don't have a video editing tool right now. I just have to one shot everything I do right now. Yeah, we have to come to a realization that what we believed was strong is really weak. And that's in regards to the people that we believed in, and that's in regards to the beliefs that we hold ourselves about ourselves and about the world around us. Most of what we understand is weak, and it has to be substituted for something that is stronger. And in order to do that, there has to be an acknowledgement of what is weak by seeing what is strong and saying, I would like to make a transition away from this. I don't want to be a nigga, because now you have to convince a person who identifies as that why they shouldn't be that, because there's so much in their mind, there's so much value, and there's so much benefit to being a nigga. For instance, if you're a nigga, you have intimidation value. You have the value of feeling intimidated. You have the value of having access to loose women. But the reason why people have so much sex with so many different people is not out of love. It's out of hatred for yourself. And it's out of hatred of that woman too. There's not an acknowledgement of who that woman is. And that woman has a hard time acknowledging who she is as well, because the journey into knowing who you are is intellectual. and it will require someone to approach her intellectually. But that person who's approaching her intellectually and is approaching her spiritually also cannot be trying to get in her pants at the same time. Because when you mix sex with education, the woman immediately loses respect for what you're trying to teach her. You have to either be a person who is her brother and strictly her brother, strictly platonic, strictly just you in a position of bequeathing information to her, or it has to be just strictly sex. And a lot of brothers would say, well, would rather just keep it strictly sex. But then when you do that, then you open yourself up to a whole lot of, spiritual diseases, sexual diseases as well, and just diseases in general. There's a lot that has occurred to us and a lot of awareness that has been made in the last year, especially what happened with Kendrick Lamar. Because people thought that Kendrick Lamar was dissing Drake. But Kendrick Lamar was not dissing Drake. Kendrick was dissing the culture that Drake is the king of. He was dissing nigga culture. Even as a person who professes to be a nigga himself, there's a bit of a paradox with that. But the thing about Kendrick is that the contradiction is not too steep, and it's not an unaware contradiction. Some people are unaware of how they contradict themselves, but when you are aware of a contradiction and you kind of work against it, then you're granted favor and granted more power against that contradiction. And Kendrick, I believe, is a brother who has matured spiritually to a point that when he says nigga, he says it to be relatable. He also does not want to be ignorant to his roots, and his roots and his root base are extremely strong, hardened black people who will refer to themselves as nigga, and he don't want to betray those people because he would say that those people are the people that put him on his journey to be who he is today. So he don't want to get to a point where he's like, nah, I don't want to, say nigga no more, because then that would put me too far away where I'm no longer connecting to my niggas. And I mean, I get it. I definitely get it. He attacked the culture and the industry because the industry and that culture attacks us. There is no life in being a nigga. There's no life in the ghetto. There's no life in the projects. I mean, of course, there's life inside of the human beings who live in those places, but as a culture and as a environment and as a paradigm, it's a death blow. It's a thing of death. It's a death thing. The whole thing is a death thing. When you have a little girl in the ghetto, you have to have a little girl knowing that the probability of her sexual activeness will be touched on by the time she is 10 years old. You have to have that negative thought in your mind that my daughter, innocent, lovely, sweet girl, will have sexual experiences by the time she's 10 or 8 or 5. And then if I'm not around because of the mother and her own hood rat tendencies and her, negative tendencies, or just the fact that we don't get along because of my tendencies, because of my lack of maturity as a man, or because of any one of those different combinations of things, my daughter will still be affected, and she will be touched by the hood. The hood will see my growing daughter and look at her not the way that I'm looking at her. They will look at her with the eye of wanting to pry open what she has inside of her. This is all death. It's all death. Take it over to the boy. What does it mean to be a little boy in the hood? You grow up with the expectation of you have to be a man, and you have to be a man early, and you have to know what that means. Because one of the first inclinations to being a man is to seek validation from other men and from your peers. But if your peers and other men are all doing things that lead to death or imprisonment, then how can you feel like a man in a place where you get your credit as a man by doing the wrong thing? So you may have not even wanted to have sex with that girl. You may have had it in your mind the thought that, man, this is wrong. I don't even have the love for this girl like I should, but my brothers and my niggas, they told me that I should have sex with her in order to lose my virginity, because in losing my virginity, I gain masculinity. But that's not true. That's not true, though. You don't gain masculinity by losing your chastity. You gain masculinity by maintaining your principles. And we all know that, because all of us said that when we were younger, there's going to be things that we don't do because we saw the negative effects that it had on people that were older than us. But we know we failed ourselves when we started to do it. We know we failed ourselves once we bit the apple. The minute we bit the apple and we said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm never going to do that. You'll never catch me. Not me, never me. And then you do it and you're like, damn. Because, and the reason why it hurts so bad to betray yourself as a black man is because you already feel like you don't have much. The only thing you did have was your word that you wouldn't do the wrong thing. So when you get to a place where you betray even yourself, you like, fuck, you like, damn. Where do I go from here? But don't give up hope, brothers, because what we own as black people is greater. It can't be taken away from us. It can't be lost by sin, and we can never access it. You can own something but not have access to it, right? Like you could theoretically own a mansion, but if the mansion is in a different country or a different part of your mind, and you don't have no way to cross the ocean, and the ocean is just the gulf of ignorance. How do I get across this ocean of ignorance? I'm an ignorant motherfucker. I'm an ignorant nigga. But I own a mansion over there. How do I get over there? If you don't know how to get over there, owning it means nothing. But the idea of ownership is still powerful. The idea of having something that belongs to you that can't be taken is still powerful. It's enough for your mind to always be drawn back to it and say, even though in this moment I can't fully see what it is that I have inside, I still have it. It's still there. So I betrayed myself. I live in a wrong environment. I don't have good relationships with my family, and I don't have good relationships with the woman that I like, and she don't really treat me the right way, but I still got something inside of me. That's important. That's extremely important, because if you don't know that you have more inside of you, then you feel lost and you feel confused. And I'm gonna tell you, the more you see brothers like Kendrick Lamar exposing and destroying the things that niggas love, the more confused and hurt you're gonna feel, because you're gonna start to realize that, damn, ain't nothing that I believed in that was actually legitimate. It's like finding out Santa Claus don't exist all over again. You know, I thought Drake was the shit, but Drake just a white boy. He just a Jew who was pretending to be black and using the worst aspects of black culture to sell it back to us while fully maintaining that he was not one of us or not like us. Getting rich from us, but not wanting to fully embrace what it means to be one of us. And that's Satan. That's not black. That's white. So there's all of these things that are being revealed, and the more that like, damn, that wasn't true. Damn, I believed in that. That wasn't true. Damn, I believed in this. This wasn't true. And that's a tough thing to deal with, especially on your own. But inshallah, Allah sends us angels and brothers, that people that we can relate to, even if it's just one person. Now, hold on to that person. Hold on to your brothers. Hold on to the brotherhood, the one that you share. Don't let nobody take your brothers away from you. Hold on to your brothers. No matter how imperfect they might be, no matter if you can see signs in them that they are not as faithful, as loyal as you. You are not perfect enough to extradite, or you're not perfect enough to remove them properly. Their life still serves a purpose. And the more you're patient and the more you struggle with them, you can perhaps get them to turn a leaf on that thing that you see in them that you don't necessarily like, where you can see something where it's like, brother, I don't like that thing about you. And likewise, there's something in you that they don't like, that they tell you about. And they say, I don't like that thing. And you still working to flip it as well, because you might not see a big problem with it. And of course, one sin might be greater than the other. And you never want to be the person carrying the greater sin. But that is also a matter of perspective. So, just be humble, brothers. Just try to be humble. I had made a video a couple of days ago, and it started off well enough, but it didn't end strong, and I felt embarrassed by it because I was talking about J. Cole, and then once I started talking about J. Cole, I realized that I started not hating him per se, but I was slandering him, and I don't want to slander nobody for who they are or for who they're not. That's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. My opinion on the J. Cole and his position as a rapper, his position as a rapper is solidified. I would just say to J. Cole respectfully, that's not something that should be questioned by him, because it's not, his music is all what he internalizes and then what he feels the need to speak on. But I would say to J. Cole that there's no reason to talk about anything that pertains to your growth as a human being until you have gotten to the other side of it. Kendrick Lamar did not defeat J. Cole. What Kendrick Lamar defeated was some of the false beliefs that people had surrounding artists that they liked. That's what Kendrick Lamar defeated. And a lot of people got mad because they realized that he defeated it, but because they love this person, they don't want to let this person go because their opinion about them was changed, which you shouldn't do. The thing that I'm not a Kendrick Lamar fan. I refer to him as my brother. We have a lot of similarities spiritually, and there's been moments in my life that have fallen in line with things that have happened to him. I don't know, like, stand shit, but on some real shit. For instance, just give you an example. When I was in prison last year, I had never been in prison before. I was in prison for 14 days, and I lost my job, and it was a lot of stuff going on, and I was struggling in prison because in prison you have to be around people that you don't know, You are restricted to a space you can't leave. You're talked to disrespectfully by the staff. You have to sleep in the cold. There's no mirrors in the prison that you can see your face so that you can't, identify with your pain. You can't look yourself in the eye in the mirrors and, commit to an image because they make the mirrors in the prison like foggy glass on purpose so that you won't be able to see yourself. So in not seeing yourself, you adopt the identity of the prison. The food is all right, but the loss of privilege and the loss of sunlight and air and being able to move around freely is extremely damaging to your psyche. So I went through that. And because I'm a spiritual brother and I'm a happy brother, for the most part, I was very, very depressed. But there was only one song I was able to sing to myself to try to uplift myself. And that song was If This World Was Mine by Luther Vandross. I got out of prison on November the 21st. Kendrick Lamar dropped GNX on November the 22nd. And of course, we all know that Luther was the biggest song from that album. Imagine how I felt. Because prior to that, I always told people that I knew when Euphoria was going to drop before it dropped, because I was keeping kind of like a spirit. See, a lot of people keep tabs through the internet, but I was keeping tabs through the spirit on where Kendrick was in his relationship to this whole beef with Drake. So I knew he was going to drop. I had a inclination. I can't say I know, but something came to me and said, Euphoria is going to drop today. And then it did. And it was a crazy thing, but there's a lot of things between me and that brother that makes me say to him, that's my brother in the spirit. That's my spiritual Aki. So it's not no fan thing with me. Well, a lot of people, it's a fan thing because they admire him for gifts that he possesses that they believe that they don't possess. But again, like I said, we all have ownership of that mansion across the ocean. And he may be able to get to his sometime. He gets to his a lot more. And I've been to mine. And inshallah, I'll be in mine again, if I'm not already in it now. But I don't like to be presumptuous. But no, Kendrick, don't be a fan of another man. I'm a great admirer of his music, but I'm not a fan, which means that, I'm not let down by the decisions that he makes. And this was what was the key difference this is what I see as key differences between the fan base of Kendrick Lamar versus the fan bases of other artists. There's a spiritual depth and intellectualism to people who like Kendrick Lamar. It's not, Kendrick Lamar didn't become the best rapper alive. That's not disputed. He literally always was. It's just that now it's just aware to a lot of other people. But 15 years ago, when I was in college, and the creative director of our art club told me to listen to cartoons and cereal, I cried when I heard the song, because there was a line in the song that identified with the existential pain I was going through and the feeling that, life was ending or the world was ending, and that, our connections to love and our connections to family and our connections to God were getting weaker and weaker, and to the point where we were all going to die. And he said something that struck a nerve with me in the song. And I never cried from hearing a rapper at all, but Kendrick Lamar had a voice that could pierce through the veil or the thing that covers the heart. And he was just piercing through that thing and touching me right there in my heart, where he hit that line, said that one thing that identified with this pain I was feeling for forever. And I said, damn, he's the best rapper alive. He's the best rapper alive. And I just kept that opinion for 15 years. Now everybody's, a lot more people are saying that. And then some people are trying to still wrestle with that fact. But the best is the best. It's not a matter of preference. It's not a preferential thing. You know, they say art is subjective, but there's still mathematical principles that you can apply to art. There's still, in fact, you know, when they value art like a art piece by like Picasso or, you know, Jean-Michel Basquiat, you know, you could look at that and say, well, why would they value this as art when it looks so childish? There's certain principles that they have when they look at it that if it hits these points, if it hits and hits enough of these points, these principles that they have to identify good art, then it passes an exam, so to speak, and then it becomes officialized as a masterpiece or, you know, great art. And Kendrick did that too many times to be, you know, put to some, he's just an artist. And that's not being forthcoming with the real truth of the matter. You gotta be able to give a person their flowers without feeling like you diminishing yourself in the process. You know, when you give credit, it's not taking credit away from yourself. Giving props is not meat riding. Giving props is what you do. When you see God, you have to give your props. And hopefully you're doing something in life where you can give yourself some props as well. So it don't feel like such a uneven exchange where I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this person who is on top of the world, and I'm sitting in a room on the floor. But I don't feel like I'm at the bottom of the world though, because I'm sitting on the floor. Yeah, because it's perspective. It's all perspective. So as a Kendrick Lamar admirer who made a declaration to themselves early on, this is the best rapper alive. I always still love Drake and J. Cole, but I just put them in their proper prioritization. And what ended up happening, from what I understand, is when J. Cole apologized, from what I saw, a lot of Kendrick Lamar fans were understanding of it. They didn't clown him. Now, of course, there are some people in the fan club, if you want to call it that, who are ignorant and did say, ooh, but for the most part, what I saw was people who were like, that, you know what, J. Cole, that was proper. But it was J. Cole's fan base who said, nah, I'm gonna stop liking J. Cole. But the reason why they did that is because they realized they had a false belief of J. Cole. Whereas we were already aware of his position. They thought his position was up here. But he never showcased that his position was up there. It was just a preferential thing. It was just preferring Pepsi to Coke. It was just a preferential thing, preferring McDonald's to Burger King. But Kendrick Lamar's artistry can't be equally compared to the artistry of J. Cole. There is a real spiritual difference between the two artists that puts Kendrick in a league above J. Cole. And it's not, no offense. It's not no, thing, because you're not J. Cole. If you're not J. Cole, I'm not about to sit here and get offended on the behalf of Kendrick Lamar. I'm not Kendrick Lamar. I'm not going to sit here and be so tied, so mentally connected, so spiritually connected. So much of my hopes and faith in humanity rest on one man. That's why Kendrick said he's not your savior. He understood the psychology of a fan to tell you that in advance so that you wouldn't get to a point where you felt like, oh man, I can't ever, I don't like J. Cole no more because he did something that was not nigga. I was extremely proud of the brother because he took a not nigga approach. He did not approach that as a nigga. He did at first because he said, I felt pressured by what? My friends, which is something that is a key component to the emotional aspect of being a Negro or a nigga, is being influenced by the pressure of other people instead of staying true to your morals and your code. Especially when the fact that it was Kendrick was more so talking to Drake than he was talking to J. Cole. But J. Cole just started saying stuff that he didn't believe. He just knows that people in his fan base believed it. That's the fucked up thing. That's a disconnect between yourself and your fan base, where you don't believe that Kendrick Lamar is a bad artist, but people in your fan base don't like To Pimp a Butterfly, but you like it. So because you understand a percentage of people's opinion about something, you leverage their opinion against Kendrick Lamar when it wasn't even really your opinion. That was but that's why J. Cole is not up there on Kendrick's level, because Kendrick wouldn't do something like that. But don't let me start meat riding and giving props and talking like I know Kendrick Lamar. I'm just saying, from what the brother has showed, he wouldn't do. I would be shocked, and I would consider it very uncharacteristic if he were to do something like that. So one thing just leads to another thing. Everything is connected in a string, in a line. You know, one thing, you can't reinvent yourself so drastically that you reshape your past and you become wildly different. You have to accept your past, accept your present, and use those things to build a better future. So we can't sit here and pretend as though J. Cole had some illustrious past that he didn't have, or we can't sit here and rewrite J. Cole's history to make it into something that we can feel I could sleep at night tonight because I have intellectually deceived myself into believing another false. So because I was already under a false opinion. I prefer J. Cole to Kendrick Lamar. Who your favorite rapper? J. Cole. Who your favorite rapper? J. Cole, my favorite rapper. Now, I'm sitting back as a younger person saying that's silly to like J. Cole over Kendrick Lamar, but I understand preference now. It's preference. It's your preference. J. Cole is your guy. But I wasn't looking at Kendrick Lamar as my guy. I was looking at Kendrick Lamar as my brother and as someone who was speaking to something that was deeply concerning to the human condition than other people were. So I wasn't looking at, oh, that's my guy, I gotta support my guy. No, I was supporting, essentially, from my perspective, I was supporting the voice of God, or a voice of God, because we can't sit here and keep making distinctions between us as black human beings and God. We are God. And there are people who know that, and there's a lot of us who don't know that. But for those who do know that, I want to continue to support them so that they can continue to do God's work, not go against them and hurt them. Does J. Cole do God's work? Oh, absolutely. 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 But it's like comparing the work of Paul to the work of Jesus. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. You can't say, oh, Paul, Paul is a savior too. Yeah, he's a savior as well, but we can't sit here and compare the miracles. The miracles are being performed on two different levels. And until there's not this personality worshiping aspect inside of your own self, you will continue to be let down and disappointed. That's pretty much it. You will continue to be let down by other human beings' failure to meet your expectations of them. Meet your own expectations. Meet your expectations of yourself. Have things that you want for yourself. Love yourself. Love yours. I love J. Cole. Love yours. So that's why I'm saying when J. Cole did that, his fan base betrayed him. F. J. Cole. F. J. Cole. J. Cole is one of the best rappers who has ever lived. Now, it's F. J. Cole because he apologized, because he didn't do what? He didn't feed the negative energy like how you wanted him to. Because it didn't sit right with him to do that. It didn't sit right with him to betray himself in that way when he didn't really feel what y'all was trying to make him feel. It didn't sit right with him. So now it's F him. Nah, it's not F. J. Cole. It's never F. J. Cole. Not J. Cole. You brothers run to saying F black people over the real enemy. The real enemy has to be scrutinized and condemned first before you start trying to, tear down black people. But we don't live by that code of ethics. So me saying that is still a fresh thing to a lot of people. Dr. Umar Johnson should never be made fun of for being black and presenting himself as a black man and saying unapologetically black things. He should never be made fun of for that. Never. It should, as a black person, you should feel ashamed of yourself for making fun of a black man for being black. Oh no, I don't make fun of him for being black. I make fun of him because he said he was going to build a school. What did you build? Because we're not going to take away credit, because again, taking away credit from others who do good things is the work of the devil. The devil is a credit stealer. The devil is one who, when you go to his bank, he will deny you based on your credit. He will deny you credit. He will not give you the loan. He will not loan you money. He will not give you credit. So don't be like that. You are not in a position to put your mind and your thoughts on another man's business when his mind and his thoughts and his goals and what he has to live with are sitting on a higher level than your own. Is he better than you? His thoughts may be better than your thoughts, but the vessel itself is just a vessel. All of us are human. So he is not better than you, but his thoughts are most certainly better than the majority of black people. You can't take away the work of a worker. You can't discredit people because of their work. Well, I'm going to hate J. Cole and everything he stood for. No, he was always telling you that was the kind of brother that he was. He was never the type of brother to insert himself into a beef between two other people and take one person's side. He's never portrayed himself to be that kind of person. So him apologizing was not out of character. It wasn't off brand. It wasn't, something that was unexpected. It was unexpected because it was humble. That's why it was unexpected. It was unexpected because it was something that was done in humility. And we know that humility is not something that is always seen in rap, because rap is a dead genre. Rap is a dead language. Rap is it's a dead man's language. It's the language. Now it began as something of life, and it began as something of purity, and it began as something of truth, but then it ended poorly. That's why I deleted the video that I made before, because the video began good, and it began with me saying things that were right and exact, and it began with me being strong, and then it ended with me making a bunch of stupid jokes and acting retarded. J. Cole is great. Now, I am interested in listening to this album that he is coming out, but I'm of the opinion that, rap is a dead genre. To be a rapper, you have to be a person who is you have to be quite insane to be a rapper. because you have to first pretend as though what you're saying is new when you know that it's not. You have to pretend as though talking about your struggle will affect someone's life differently than the last 1 million rappers who did that. You have to assume that, and you have to believe that. You gotta believe when I say my struggle, it was different than when Beanie Siegel said his struggle. Like it's such a redundant thing, and it's redundant because it's dead. Death is redundant. There's nothing more redundant than a graveyard. You still dead? Yeah, I'm still dead. You still dead? Yeah, I'm still dead. You still dead? Yeah, I'm still dead. It's redundant. The graveyard is redundant. Oh man, I'm about to talk about how you had sex with a woman. Yeah, we get it. So did Lil Wayne. I mean, we get it. It's not. I'm not me. My raps is different. What's your raps about, brother? Well, I'm gonna rap about how I sold drugs to get to the level that I'm at. I made it out the hood by really struggling real hard to do, things that I didn't really want to do to get out of my situation. Cool. I'm starting to do it again. This is the same thing I started doing the last time I made the video. Damn it. Because that is the death inside of me. All of us have that aspect to us. But, yeah, rap is a dead language, and it's okay. Black people, we are inventive and special enough that we can create a new way of expressing. We always created new ways to express. We created jazz, and jazz had its time. Jazz is timeless. Jazz is timeless, but jazz had its peak time, and rock and roll had its peak time, and rhythm and blues had its peak time, and disco era had its peak time. These are all creations of black people. Earth, Wind and Fire, B.B. King, Nat King Cole, Ray Charles, Diana Ross, Patti LaBelle, sister, Aretha Franklin. These things, Anita Baker. All of these things had their time. They all had their time. And they're timeless, but they had their peak. And rap is in desperate need of a change. That's why Andre abandoned rap and just made a flute album. The flute album was fire. This man don't know what to say to appeal to our imaginations no more. He didn't already said everything that he can say. Because when you start forcing yourself to try to say something that you don't feel like saying, you end up making a mistake. I didn't feel like I really wanted to say anything, but the pressure's on me to get in the studio and make a rap album. So I'm going to go ahead and give it the best I got. And then you get a point zero on Pitchfork or on, Rolling Stones rate your album as like a 3. Instead of going through all of that humiliation, trying to make something great when you've already made something great, why not just abandon that phase of expression and move on to a new phase? That's what life is about. Life is about moving on. Moving on. That's what life is about. And that's what I'm coming to understand. It's hard to move on when you love something. When you love something, it's hard to move on. If you love a woman, it's hard to move on from her. You love your brother and your brother is not doing the right thing by you. It's hard to move on from him. You love anybody. If you love your mom and your mom don't treat you right, it's hard to move on from her. You love your father and your father don't treat you right, it's hard to move on from your father. But that's the beauty of emotional detachment and disconnecting, but elevating your spirituality so that the love that you have for yourself is greater, and it's there for those people if they ever choose to come and exchange love with you. But you don't become bitter and hateful and stay in the house with them and look them up and down every day like this no good piece of shit. You don't got to do that. You just move on. Just move on, and you keep it open to them, because we all human. Why wouldn't you keep yourself open to the growth of another human being? J. Cole can't do that. He's supposed to be the same person that I think that he is. No, J. Cole is not your slave. J. Cole is not your slave. Kendrick Lamar is not your slave. These rappers are our brothers. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the situation. I'm looking forward to his album, but I think J. Cole has took such a psychological hit in the last year from his fans that if he makes this album about trying to prove people wrong, that will be the wrong thing to do. If I had access to his fan base, I would tell him, J. Cole, I know you told people your album is coming out on the 6th of February, but don't even put it out, bro. Don't put it out. Like, just don't put it out. Just burn it. Just shelve it. And just, brother, you did it, bro. You did it. You did it, man. You done made amazing albums. People don't talk about KOD like they should, but KOD is one of J. Cole's most incredible albums. In fact, after the off season, it's my favorite album by J. Cole. I think J. Cole did get better. The off season was incredible because I used to kind of mess on the off season. But when you start thinking about songs like Omari and Close and Hunger on Hillside, and those songs are not nothing to laugh at. Those are some serious songs, especially Hunger on Hillside. Hunger on Hillside, that song will change your life if you listen to it. J. Cole has done a lot. Too much to be sitting somewhere wondering if he should, with people and all of this type of stuff. I would tell him, brother, just destroy your album, bro. Just destroy. If you ain't gonna do nothing on this album that is definitively good for your spirit and you just want to share it with people because you are in that type of mindset, do not belabor us with your insecurities or with your judgments of yourself, or judging other people, or judging Kendrick Lamar because of, his domination of rap, or judging Drake. I don't want to hear that at all. Don't put my ears through that. I don't want to hear that. That's what I would tell, bro. I hope I said something that made someone happy. I hope that I made sense, and I hope I made a difference in what I'm talking about. I can't keep talking. I gotta go. So I hope that y'all have a great day. Hope that y'all stay safe. Remember that you are the owners of the planet Earth. The Earth is your home. The Earth and the universe itself are the possessions of the black man. You are not a slave to it. It is a slave to you. The sun is a slave to the black man. The sun rises to get you up. The sun rises so that you may rise. It rises to encourage your rise. It rises to support and uplift your rise. It rises to feed your skin and put vitamin D inside of your body, to electrify your mind, to bring power to yourself. You are not beneath the way that the devil said that you were. The devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. Get on my Dr. Umar Johnson for a second. The devil is a liar. I'm gonna say it again. Don't ever believe the devil. You are not niggas. Whenever you see a black man, you are looking at God. Whenever you see a black woman, you are looking at God. You can't mix truth with lies. Hey, baby. All right, I'm coming out. Peace.